The beat goes on. Tonight, our regular guests are Tony Amos, Barry Rushton, and Shane. And your host on The Beat Goes On, Gerard Smith.
Once again, a big welcome to The Beat Goes On. Tonight our special guest is Paolo Rotunda. Paolo is here to tell us all about the upcoming Festival Italiano on Sunday the 27th in Newmarket. A great day celebrating all things Italian. Andy O'Sullivan, our man from Durable Medical Equipment, has a great new device for us baby boomers. And once again, looking forward tonight to another session of Looking Back with Bob. But first up on The Beat Goes On.
He's out there in the rain. He's out there in the sunshine. He's out there looking to find the best in movies and music. Our resident guru on all things movies and music, Barry Rushton.
Barry! Oh,
Jared, I'm still exhausted, mate. Still exhausted from Saturday night.
You're a better dancer than I am,
Well,
Barry.
no, I'm not too sure.
And those bell bottoms you wore. Wow.
I do know that most people say that, we're, all of us are only 2 drinks away from normal. So sometimes if you have a little glass of wine and another one, you can think you're dancing great. But,
Oh, it was a great night, wonderful night.
Great night.
The opening of the new dance club, and folks, remember that it's on again this Friday night and on again Saturday night as well for the rest of your natural lives.
So that's another good 40 years, I know, Jared, at least. Now, look, we've been talking about a few good movies, and there are some good ones coming. But before I talk about this album, Jared, which I just tapped nicely with my fingers, I want to talk to you a bit about wine. You say, really, wine?
Wine?
And the reason being is that, when they talk about wine, they talk about it's bold and it's big and it's earthy and it's oaked and it's sort of structured and it's all that stuff.
It's got a big upfront fruit nose.
All that. And talking about the fruit aspect, and I am leading to something on this, talking about that, like the red wines, for example, say, get divided into 2 groups, the sort of the blackberries and the red berry ones, The blackberry ones are like your earthy ones, like the Sauvignons, whereas the red berry ones are sort of like the Pinots and that sort of stuff. Same thing with the white wines, that's how they get these flavours. Now, what am I leading up onto?
Have you drunk very much wine, Barry?
Obviously, it sounds like I've drunk quite a bit tonight. But leaving that aside, the reason I bring that in is that because this album, this is the second album by a man called Ben Howard, and the album's called I Forget Where We Were. I know, I forget where we were.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that is that because this album has great flavours.
Oh, okay.
Has great, you have a hold of yours.
Oh, thank you.
Has great
Here we go,
flavours
folks.
of bands like Fleetwood Mac, of Jethro Tull, John Mayer, and probably even a little bit of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. His first album, 2011, it was his debut album, called Every Kingdom, was such a success that even in 2012, 2013, he was voted as Britain's most favourite solo male. I think it was. He won the award for that. So this is his second album. Okay, it's been out for a little while now, but it actually, he's an English guy, English singer-songwriter. Grew up in a family of music-loving people. Grew up around artists like sort of Van Morrison and sort of Joni Mitchell, and sort of Simon & Garfunkel. So that's where a lot of these roots are coming from.
You can hear
in his
flavours
songs.
of all these
And you
people.
can hear flavours of all these people, which is what I love. So you have a listen and see if you
let's
don't
have a
agree
listen.
with me.
Oh, hey, I wasn't listening. I was watching Syria, blinded by the sunshine strip. You were in the kitchen. Oh, yeah. My runner's mouth, the wounded with the wounder's whip. And that's how summer passed. Oh, the great dividing range, the green, green grass and home. Maybe it was peace at last, who knew? Hello, love, my invincible friend. Oh, hello, love, the thistle and the burr. Oh, hello, love, for you I have so many words. But I forget where we were. I wasn't listening, I was stunned by all of us, the blind leading up the board. And as per usual, you were skipping and laughing eyes at the bedroom door. Don't take it so seriously, no. Only time And that's how summer passed. Oh, the great dividing range of green, green grass. And maybe I'll hold on fast to you.
Barry, I know what you mean. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Well, there are some great tracks. I'll come on to that a little bit, because when I first heard, like a good wine, you know, that if a good wine, you know, left long enough gets better. An album like this one is an album that actually grows on you. When you first hear it first, you think, okay, maybe, you know, and then it grows on you, and I love it. This guy, yes, he started off, he went to university, did all the educational things, did journalism, not fell out of it, but decided that music was his life.
Ben Howard.
Ben Howard, you know,
yep.
yeah, and exactly, and it's sort of, you know how we talked about Rotten Tomatoes giving movies a rating? Yeah. Well, in the music world, they have a thing called Metacritic. And Metacritic gives this one a 77 out of 100, which is very favourable, very favourable. The trouble with having a great, successful first album is you've actually got to follow it up with another one, you know, and that's where they all fall over. So in actual fact, I think the second album now is even better than the first. But it is an album that I say that it'll grow on you. Stick it in the car, and I've had this in the car, you know, several times now, and it's just great. And I played it here a little bit before tonight to people out in the green room, and they said, gee, that's great, what's that? So it'll be one of those kind of albums. So Ben Howard, I Forget Where We Were, well worth listening to.
Barry, once again, wonderful job.
Good, mate, thank you.
We're going to see you next week, and with, anything in mind, a movie or a music?
Jared, way too early to
Way
tell you.
too
Way
early.
too early.
Wow.
We'll surprise you next week, my friend.
It's like asking the winner of next week's lotto, isn't it?
Exactly. Do you know the person? See you, mate. See you. Bye.
Thank you, Barry. Coming up next on The Beat Goes On, it's Sir Robert Jones. Bob has given up on the normal airlines and flown to Auckland in his brand new jet just to be on The Beat Goes On. It is with great pleasure we present Looking Back with Bob. Sir Robert Jones, it's always good to see you, and Looking Back with Bob. Yes. It's my favourite part of the show. And look, I tell you what's in the news a lot lately, Bob, is housing. This housing crisis in Auckland, I bet you've got some...
Yes, over my lifetime, housing in New Zealand, as everywhere, is, well, no, actually, I'll take that back, not as everywhere. They go on about Germany and that. There's a lot of mythology about that in housing. We're very fortunate in this country. Give you an example. We get a lot of publicity about South Auckland, you know, et cetera, welfare South Auckland.
Yeah.
The occupants of those homes in South Auckland, those state houses, are living the highest standard of living in a material sense of any time, anywhere in human history. I mean,
when you look at it like that, you're dead right.
80% of the world's population would chop off an arm to live in those houses and receive that welfare benefit. But it's an extraordinary achievement in a sense, and yet the groaning goes on often on their behalf by the professional groaners. But you don't get a lot of groaning. There is a bit about, houses are cold, all that sort of thing. Well, we certainly grew up in cold homes. So there's been a huge lift in the standard of housing. And while I'm enormously critical of commercial architecture in this country, and it's not a matter of debate, I'm bloody well right. I know what I'm talking about. It's a matter of design.
You're living it,
simple things that if you wonder what, take office buildings, the corner office, the boss's traditional prestigious corner office. Here they'll go and build columns. They'll let the engineer put bloody great lumps of concrete columns in the corner. And that beautiful, what should be a sealed window, you don't have to have the columns in the corner. I could go on and on. There's something the lay public would understand. Why do they do it? Because they're stupid. And they're stupid. Look, I'll tell you, they are architects. I actually even interested in some of the social implications. One of the things I've noticed about architects is how they must have the highest incidence of any profession in the world of their wives fleeing. I'm serious. What? I wrote a piece about it in the bloody Herald about wives fleeing, because every architect I know, his wife's run off with a dustman or any bastard going by, you know, and I don't blame them. And anyway, I tell you, it appeared in the Herald the week we were skiing and we got snowed in, and we had to get, when we were leaving, we had to hire this bloody minibus to take us all the way through Denver. It was pretty precarious. And there was this rather sad-looking bugger to drive it. So I got chatting to him. I was sitting in the front. I dragged his story out. He was an architect. He had left Salt Lake City and come up here looking for work, couldn't find it. And then I said, well, why don't you go to Texas? Plenty of work there. No, I can't for the culture. And then I said, you're a Mormon, are you? And he said, yes. I said, you mean hanging people and that, or shooting? He said, yep, which is fair enough. Anyway, I got it out. Why he'd fled, his wife had run off with a bloody plumber. That's right, plumber, just the week white collar of it. Well, it's true, they're bloody hopeless. Our housing architecture, however, with the exception of some twee stuff, particularly in the North Island, silly little Cape Cod stuff, rubbish like that, particularly in the South Island, it's exceptionally good. You know, big windows, high ceilings, they know what they're about, facing north and fundamentals. But my God, our commercial architecture.
But what's causing this problem in Auckland, Bob?
The Auckland housing thing is simply supply and demand, and we are running a policy, which of course in itself is debatable, albeit I wholeheartedly endorse it, of massive migration. I think you could be a little more selective, but it's very easy to get in if you apply through Auckland immigration. It's harder in Wellington. That's another issue. But it's really weird. They're a bit independent. So people are arriving here in droves, and particularly from China, for which I'm hugely enthusiastic. I think it may well be an Asian country in 50 years, so what? They're people, and they're bloody good people, but there's too many.
You're a good businessman. If you were a dictator, how would you fix it immediately, the problem in Auckland?
Why are we not keeping up? Yeah. And that's one of the huge changes that are taking place in this country. They go on and on about the Douglas Revolution as deregulation. What a lot of cock. Prior to the Douglas Revolution, we had the regulations about everyday life in this country, and indeed in other Western countries, are just completely over the top. We got a farmer fined 20 grand recently. He was spotted on his own farm riding a farm bike without a helmet. Bloody hell, it's his life. This is pathetic. We're one of the few countries in the world that make people wear helmets for cycling. For God's sake. There's too many of these little bearded buggers going around, inspectors. Now, don't take my word for it, talk to a building contractor.
Little bearded
and
buggers.
They're walking out of the industry. They're fed up. They're not allowed to go up a ladder anymore. I mean, they've been going up ladders for centuries. It's childish. And scaffolding, there are so many regulations now that have added massively to the cost of building a house. And similarly to building an office building. Now, from our selfish point of view, as a permanent owner, as a major owner of office buildings, we actually benefit because they make it more expensive to build an office building. It lifts the value of all existing ones, you see. And it is completely over the top, the obsession about safety.
So if you were a dictator,
and that is adding, well, you'd purge all those laws and start fresh.
Is that the
and
resource
you wouldn't
management
let little bearded buggers have any. I mean, I could regale you with most entertaining tales of, say, the Wellington City Council, where to work for them you have to be a certified half-wit. And, you know, with an IQ under 50, you've got no idea. You've got no idea how bad they are. And they're regular. I mean, it's just appalling. It's like an old associate said to me once in Sydney, whom I've known since the 1979. We own a hell of a lot of stuff together. And he said, we couldn't do it now. That's why we employ all these young people. They've grown up used to all this. It would drive us mad. I mean, over there it's worse than here. You've got, we've got situations like, say we own a lot of factories there, and they've got little gardens in front. They will tell you what flowers they want in them. It's that busybody-ish. It's unbelievable. New South Wales, funny enough, people don't complain about it much there. I mean, I don't get it, the way they're so passive about it. Maybe they feel helpless, I don't know. But it's the major cost of housing today, that is the increment in the conventional cost, is this extraordinary amount of busybody, unnecessary safety regulations. They are more pragmatic in Australia, I will say that, on the safety stuff. They have other ridiculously over-the-top regulations, but they're more pragmatic about safety. They're not carrying on about that. It's adding enormously to the cost of housing. Another factor that's lifted the cost of housing, you think I'm being facetious, is cell phoneism, cell phone addiction. And I'm not.
Have you got a cell phone, Bob?
No.
So you haven't got a cell phone, Bob?
No, I wouldn't know how to work one. None of our staff use them. We're efficient, you see. We use our head instead. But you think I'm being silly about the cell phone, the cost. No. I was talking to an Auckland lawyer about this one day. We were driving out to look at a new bookshop, and Jeff Cohn. And I was going, oh, he said, oh, you exaggerate. And we came past a block of apartments nearing completion. Thus, there were an enormous number of tradesmen vans there, plumbers, electricians, all decorators, this sort of thing. I said, right, I'll bet you half of them on a cell phone. Well, we can't walk in. Yes, we can. You watch. They all say, g'day, Bob, because they'll be older men. They did. And we walked in. There were 20 blokes on that site. 19 were leaning against the wall. Rah, 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 rah. I mean, it's nonsense. Nonsense. And I'm not knocking cell phones. You know, extraordinary, amazing invention. I'm knocking the misuse.
The misuse.
And they're addictive.
Yeah.
And we ban them in our office with tradesmen, not allowed to bring them in, not allowed to use them on site. Because we want the bloody job done, Jared. We don't want them standing around bawling into phones. You think it's silly? You walk onto a building site. Most of them will be leaning against the wall, bawling into a phone. It's funny,
Bob, you're so right. You're so right.
Listen, I'm not trying to be funny. I am telling you the truth.
No, I'm just laughing at how right you are. It's just become... you're trying to talk to people and they're on this.
It is a condition.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got building work going on everywhere, and we know we want it done quick.
Yeah.
And the only way you can get it quick is say no cell phones, but the buggers then walk out in the street and stand there. They've got to get their bloody fix.
Yeah.
You know, they're going through withdrawal symptoms. It is a serious problem. And I repeat again, I am not knocking cell phones. I marvel with them.
Yeah, I'm just laughing at them.
But they become addictive.
Yeah.
Look at these people walking down the street now. At least 2/3 of them are staring at their hands. Nonsense stuff.
They're in a little world of their own.
I asked one of our girls about it once. I said, what do they call it? A tweet. Is it a tweet they call it? Yeah.
A text?
Text.
Yeah.
I said, do you text? Now, this girl, unlike most of them, was a bit brighter than the rest, you know. I said, of course I text. I said, well, give me an example. Well, so I agreed to meet a girlfriend at 6 in a bar. She said, I would text to say I'm on my way. And then came this sort of generational impasse where I looked at her with disbelief and she looked at me. I said, but if you said you'll meet her at 6, just bloody well meet her. Why do you have to say I'm on my way? And she texts back saying, oh, good, I'll see you soon. Yeah, I'm nearly there and all this. So it's not all good. The cell phone stuff.
Looking back with Bob. Bob, thank you very much today. We're going to see you next week with some more wonderful looks at the past. Once again, a big thanks to Bob for joining us on The Beat Goes On. And once again, the exciting news this week is the brand new, very swanky Beat Goes On Dance Club every Friday and Saturday night. Great parking with doors opening at 8 p.m. The address is Scene Lane, Britomart, just behind the Countdown Supermarket in Key Street. See you there, and all the details are at www.thebeatgoeson.co.nz. And right now it's time for that time when we talk to our special guest. Tonight our special guest is Paolo Rotunda. Paolo is here to tell us all about the upcoming Festival Italiano on Sunday the 27th in Newmarket. A great day celebrating all things Italian. Paolo Rotondo, welcome to The Beat Goes On.
How are you?
Very privileged to have a member of the Italian community here on The Beat Goes On this week because something fantastic's happening in the next couple of weeks on the 27th.
Yes, the Festival Italiano is happening, which is
I love that.
the major cultural festival for Auckland from the Italian community.
Gosh.
Yeah, in Newmarket. It's huge and it's been growing every year for about, we've been doing it for about 10 years or longer actually, but it started with a little school and a little fair and now it's just grown. And now we block off and the entire street of Osborne Street in the Kent Terrace down in Newmarket, and it's huge.
Yeah.
It's massive. And last year we had 10,000 people come and from all over Auckland. And it lasts all day, so there's probably more even, you know.
I have got the times here from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
That's right,
Wonderful.
yeah, it's a big day.
40 stalls.
Is that how many this year? 40?
Wow. Wow, it's great.
It's huge.
How many Italians live in New Zealand? What's your estimate?
I think there's about 5,000 at the well, maybe a little less than that.
So
in
they
New
have
Zealand
an
too.
influence, don't they?
They do, but it's not huge. But Italians are very proud people, as you know. Siamo molto orgogliosi della nostra cultura.
I love it.
We love being Italian. And so, and New Zealanders have really loved Italian culture and communities. So, you know, we've got a long history ranging back from when the Māori battalion fought in the war, to the tunnelers, to the Island Bay fishermen, all the way to the sort of more contemporary Auckland Italians, who are sort of architects and modern people. And everyone, of course, knows about Italian food.
Oh, can I tell you? This is, we're going to digress. Scallopini masala.
Scallopini, I make that.
Oh,
fantastic.
You know, scallopini masala.
That used to be my seducing dish. So I could, if I had with my wife, I'd have then I'd make scallopini masala. And she would-
Oh, and you were home, were you? Hey, we digress. But look, let's look at the history of Italy. I mean, let's go back to Rome. I mean,
Shall we go back that
yeah,
far?
let's go back to Rome.
Well, before Rome, there was the Etruscans.
Yeah,
in Italy
that's
as well.
right, they were. We won't mention them. But the reason I go back there is that I've just read a series of about 7 books by Colin McCulloch. The First Man in Rome was the beginning, but it was all about Rome. Wow, was I enthralled with the... They used to be the United States of America. That in 2,000 years ago.
Very much so,
2000.
yeah.
And I was just enthralled with the story. But so there was something special about the Romans, Italians. But in fact, the Romans, they used to have a very low opinion of what they called the Italians. You know, there was that Rome there, and it was a long battle there for them to accept the people from the countryside, the Italians, into the Roman society to become
most
citizens.
definitely,
To
yeah.
become a citizen of Rome was a real privilege. You could go anywhere in
In
the
fact,
world.
when they colonized the
Yeah.
world, those people, the subjugated people, never became necessarily Romans themselves.
Yeah.
But the Romans had a few tricks up their sleeve with that. They would allow the countries that they took over to have their own leaders, to practice their own religion. And
Good thinking, wasn't
good
it?
thinking, yeah. So they were
didn't
very
try and force
clever
their ideas.
colonists, yes, which is never a good thing. we have that experience in New Zealand, don't we? Colonizing in any historically has never been good, but we should have learned from the Romans, shouldn't we?
So what I'm saying is that the Italian people have a proud heritage, don't they? Going back all those years, and they have a mindset that once they ruled the world, and I'm sure they still think that in a funny sort of a way, but they're a country of 40 to 45 million people.
No, even more. There's like 60 million people.
Oh, it's up to 60 million.
And if you can imagine that in the diaspora of Italians who went overseas when Italy was facing economic crises at the beginning of the 20th century, they estimate that there's about 20 million descendants around the world. So Italy is well represented internationally as well. I mean, there's probably not a place in the world where there's not Italians.
Yeah.
And New Zealand's probably got one of the smallest communities, but it's a very healthy one.
It's making an impact.
Yeah.
So before we go on to, we're going to talk about you, Paolo. I'll get the name right too, because my Italian isn't that great. But let's just go over the details for Sunday the 27th, just to remind our viewers that it's just going to be a wonderful day.
So down in
It's all
Osborne-
things Italian.
All things Italian. So
Yeah.
there are food stalls, there are clothing stalls, there's Peroni beer, there's Prosecco, Champagne,
Oh.
there is opera being sung. We have Kirsten Morel, who used to be the lead singer of Golden Horse.
Wow.
And,
I think she's wonderful.
She, of course, speaks a little bit of Italian because she sings opera. So any opera singer worth their salt has to speak some Italian. And we've got some great Italian musicians, Luca Manghi, and they're all going to be playing. So, and we have a fantastic jazz band called Itali, and all through the day we have guests and prizes and giveaways, and we give away some incredible stuff. And also there's lots of impromptu giving away.
Now, a trip to Italy. A trip to Italy.
I
So if
know.
you get down there, there's 3,000 tickets to be sold on the day, and the winner gets a trip to Italy.
And on the day, every
Wow.
time I've had to pull out a ticket and given someone a trip. It's every time we're down there, every year. It's been fantastic. It's like what a cool thing to give away.
So how much are the tickets?
Tickets are only $5. And you could win a trip to Italy.
$5 for a trip to Italy.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I was a good Italian star, I might try and bribe my way into winning the ticket, but it's New Zealand, unfortunately. We can't do that.
Now, I attempted to pronounce your name, so let's go over it slowly.
Paolo.
Ooh, that's
It's because we Ao. Paolo.
and the Christian and the surname is
Rotondo.
Rotondo.
Paolo Rotondo, con la testa di piombo e il petto di rame che grida c'ho fame.
Now, what's that name in English?
My name in English is awful. It literally translated, it's Paul Round.
Paul Round.
Not cool at all. So my mates who know that love teasing me, and they call me Paul. And I'm like, oh, that's
Paul Round.
No, I'm not a Paul.
Now, how
I'm a
did
Paolo.
when and how did Paul Round come into the world?
Well, I'm half Italian, half Kiwi, which is why they get me to do the emceeing every year.
So
Because
you're very fluent in Italian, of course.
it was my mother tongue, and I lived there till I was 11 years old, and then came here, and my father spoke Italian to me only, and I speak Italian to my kids, and I love my culture, and because I live in New Zealand and I've chosen to live here, I work very hard to keep it alive because and so my kids go to the Dante school, the Società Dante Alighieri, which is the Italian society here in Auckland. My kids go to the school and they play in Italian, they learn in Italian, and I try to do as much as possible. And I run an Italian film festival here in New Zealand.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment. But now, Mum was the Italian or Dad was the Italian?
My father was Italian.
Your father was Italian and your mother was English.
Mum was
Now,
Kiwi.
when she would say...
Not English, actually, Irish Kiwi.
Irish Kiwi.
Yes.
So
it's a
now,
big difference.
Did she speak to you? So your mother tongue would have been English in the sense that when your mother said, "Don't do that, Paul Lowe," she would have spoken English, wouldn't she?
My mother lived for such a long time in Italy that she spoke both. So
really?
yeah, I think my mother tongue is English. Yes.
Yeah. Now, what advantages does that give you, Paolo?
Well, I mean, the greatest thing about having two languages is that you have two ways of thinking. So language actually provides you with such a different way of thinking. So that's why when New Zealanders wanted to teach their kids te reo at school, I was like, of course you must. Because it's not about the language specifically, it's about how it changes your conception of the world. And so it gives you, I think it gives you more tools to reason things and to think about things differently.
Now, what about the Italian character? It's of the... what do they call it? The Latin. It's a Latin character, which means it's more fiery and more expressive.
We're very passionate
compared
people.
to, say, a man from Sweden or Norway.
Yes,
it's right at the other end of the spectrum, and both types of personalities make up the Eurozone, and we find that the 4 Latin countries basically find it very difficult to compete with the German mentality.
Yeah.
So what's your answer about that?
I can't speak for all of Europe, but I know that Italy, for example, culturally is not one culture. I'm from the south, so we're Mediterranean people. Yeah. So we have more in common with Greeks and the Turks and the North Africans, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the 20th century, the southern Italians were trying very hard to be Europeans, but I'm proud of being Mediterranean, you know. Whereas in northern Italy, there are parts of northern Italy which are, on the Swiss border and German parts of speaking Italy and the Slovenian side, Trieste, and they're very northern European. And of course, so these cultures all work together. But the south is very underprivileged, and so economically, when Italy got unified, all the wealth got taken away from there, and so it started off on a really bad foot, and so it doesn't have. It's consequently now it's got terrible infrastructure and a lot of corruption, and that's what holds back, I think, the south of Italy a lot.
Do you take it personally when people talk about the Italian mafia and sort of put down the concept? Do you take it personally, or do you?
I don't take it personally, but I do think that there's a conception of that which is romanticized through American films, and the reality is not romantic. The reality is not cool at all, and it's not handsome, and it's not full of guys strutting around in guns. It's just really exploitative. What they call it is it's capitalism without boundaries. It's just people exploiting. Basically, there are parts, especially where I come from, Napoli, which have a very lawless, and it's like a corporation without any ethics or boundaries. It's actually the killing and the stuff is a very small part of it. It's actually commerce and big business.
I think the strongest thing is the family, isn't it? In the Italian concept. Now, we don't have that in New Zealand. You can have grandma over here looking after the kids, and you have a sort of a compound, and the family lives together. The Western society went nuclear, didn't it?
That's right, which is it's only a 20th century construct. I mean, I'm very torn personally between those ideas because I'm growing up in a Western country, which is the cult of the individual is more important. So we're very meritocratic here, which, if you're the best, you rise through the ranks. In Italy, of course, I would look after my family, and I also agree with that. But they're in conflict with each other, aren't they? So they're not. I would always help my friend or my cousin first, right? It just makes sense to me. But it's not, so I'm in conflict with those two ideas, being of two cultures, and I can agree and see the merits of both and the downside of both. I mean, in New Zealand, sometimes Italians exasperate themselves because we're so law-abiding, but we'll do silly things because it's the rules. But you go, well, the rules are supposed to work for us, not the other way around. And so Italians are very flexible and organic about that kind of thing. And so sometimes it's, there's who knows what's right and wrong. It's culture, isn't it?
Now, having a mother and a father, Kiwi, what about that Italian passion? You got it from Dad?
Well, yeah, it's translated into my theatre,
the
into
arms convey.
I'm a performer, so I work as an actor, and I'm a filmmaker, and I've gone to the arts, and I think that suits my Italian sense of expression a lot. And I've got the temper, big histrionics at home when we lots of passion.
Mamma mia! That's what I know.
That's right. And I get told that I'm very intense. Italians they're passionate, and people go, "Oh, you're so intense." And Anglo-Saxons are very reserved often.
That's the Norway end of the spectrum.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I also grew up where the attitude for men was very different. So. In New Zealand, I got taught that men, you don't cry, you hold your emotions inside. My Italian culture said a strong man knows how to cry, shows his emotions, shows his heart. And so, I'm a balance of both, I think.
Now, what about the great Italian tradition of romance? Are you a romantic?
I'm a hopeless romantic. Hopeless. My wife and I, we had love at first sight.
Yeah.
I met her and off straight away. I mean, people think it's crazy, but it happens.
And do you keep the courting up? I mean, it never stops, bringing your wife flowers? And,
yes, well, my wife is Māori, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
I've got now kids who are Italian Māori. So the tangata whenua Italiano, and you know that wahine Māori are very strong women. And so they're...
What a wonderful combination.
That is a wonderful combination.
And how are the kids turning out as Italian Maori?
Oh, they're beautiful. They're so wonderful. Yeah. They go quite well, and the sense of whānau and familia are very similar. Yeah. And so we're all about family, both sides of that. So that's really lovely. And I personally could live in an Italian way or a Māori way with all the family around all the time.
Look, we're running out of time. Fascinating subject, isn't it? But
the Italian festival.
Yeah, no, we'll get back to that. But tempted to go back and live in Italy, take the family and the kids and give them.
I wouldn't have, but I could never give up New Zealand permanently. This is the best country in the world.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. There's no comparison. I've lived in lots of other countries too, and there's nothing compares to New Zealand.
Oh, that's great. So let's finish off with the festival. Sunday, the 27th of September, 13 days away from tonight. The big festival. So, baby boomers, your duty is to go to Newmarket on the Sunday the 27th. Be there at 11 o'clock.
There's storytelling for kids. There's a lot of food for us. John
Kerwin's going to be there.
John Kerwin, well, he's a fluent Italian speaker, and I know his wife and his kids, they're wonderful. He's he's an honorary Italian, that man.
Look, there's cheese baking, there's Ferrari cars are on display.
Yeah, I bring my Ferrari down. I bring my Vespa. There's so many great things. There's dancing, there's opera, there's lots of prizes, lots of giveaways.
And the trip to Italy.
Italy.
$5 a ticket.
All the Italian restaurants of Auckland are around there. And I'm going to be announcing that I'm launching the Cinema Italiano Festival, which is the Italian Cinema Festival, which I'll be May next year we're going to be launching. So
hey, you've got to come back and tell us all about that next year.
I will, yeah.
Hey, great to talk.
Thanks so much, John.
You've convinced me that I've missed out. I should have been Italian.
Grazie mille.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Paolo. Coming up next on The Beat Goes On, we welcome Andy O'Sullivan from DME, Durable Medical Equipment. They have a wonderful website with all the gadgets and devices designed to make the aging process so much easier. Check it out at www.dme.co.nz. Andy O'Sullivan, welcome to The Beat Goes On.
Hey Jared, how are you?
You're an international traveller. Andy, you've finally got back to The Beat Goes On. You've been overseas. Where's your last trip?
I went to Ireland, Sweden and Italy.
Wow.
Just to have a look around.
Ireland, Sweden and Italy. Just looking at all the gear from the DME
all sorts
world.
of different products that I guess help New Zealanders.
You have a great job, don't you, Andy?
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
Wow. And you told me before we started that, and this is what amazed me, every morning, 5 o'clock, you're up and out. How does one get up at 5 o'clock and go to work? You reckon you're ready and you're out of the house within 10 minutes?
10 minutes. Everything's hung up on a hook in the ensuite the night before. Straight out of bed, straight in the shower. Everything's a routine. You don't have to think about anything. Just do.
And then you get to work at what time?
I get to work generally about 5:20.
Wow.
Breakfast at work about 7.
So, and
then the
nobody
rest
else
of the day.
around?
No, great.
No. And so you really get some
No
work done.
interruptions.
Yeah.
I deal a lot with overseas, obviously, we just mentioned, so it's a good time to talk to people overseas.
But then you'd have to compensate by knocking off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
No, perhaps 5. The joys of having your own business.
That's a 10-hour day, isn't it?
Well, 12, yeah.
Now, Andy, look, you're a regular on the program, but we have different viewers coming in at different stages. Let's start right at the beginning. DME, durable medical equipment,
Correct.
especially for us baby boomers as our generation is aging. You've got such a fantastic array. Go to the website, folks, dme.co.nz, and it's all there. But give us a 60-second rundown.
Right, DME is durable medical equipment. It's basically equipment that will help us survive in our home in the event of a disability or anything that could be age-related, osteoarthritis, all these sorts of things, so that you learn to adjust to how your body is growing older, and so that you will not have a classic failure in your 80s and end up in a rest home. So the idea is to try and keep you in your home as long as possible, your own independence, and if you learn to do that whilst you're in your 60s and 70s, you don't have those catastrophic failures that you end up in a rest home.
And by you coming on the show, know that there's a lot of help out there with gadgets and different types of things that you don't think that's out there. Like you've talked about the long-handled
shoehorns,
shoehorns, putting you wonderful little gadgets.
There's lots of little things.
Because I'm still doing it. I can't go do my shoes up. Oh gosh, it's so
I noticed.
But no, good on you, Andy. It's a wonderful industry, isn't it?
It is. As I say, 140 parcels go out a day. 140 New Zealanders get something that'll help them.
To help them. Yeah. 140 a day, which multiplied by 5 days a week or 6 days a week, you must have a pretty big warehouse.
Yeah, we've got a fairly large warehouse in Auckland and a warehouse in Wellington, one in Christchurch as well. So,
how many items would you have in stock?
Items around individual numbered items, about 50,000 actual items of about 3,500, 4,000 products.
And do you know every one of them, Andy?
Yes. I don't know where they all are.
You got a fair idea. You got a fair idea. Fair idea.
Somebody else looks after them for me. But
now, Andy, today you've got, as I say, 50,000 items. Let's just pick one today. What do you recommend today?
On this last trip, I've just been up to Sweden, and there's a product there called eMove. It's a wheel. It's originally eMove, originally designed by Yamaha in Japan, and this company in Sweden called Decon has modified it and programmed it differently so it'll do a lot of things. What it is that we have a lot of baby boomers and all their parents in wheelchairs, and they may start to find it struggle to push with the shoulders with arthritis or to get round. And it's basically a wheel that's got a motor in it.
Wow.
That just allows you to keep your own chair, everything's the same. Just put the wheels on and away you go. And the glory of it is that you don't have to change your house, you don't have to change any conditions. If everything that's existing in your house can stay the same. Whereas if you went to a big power chair, you'd have to widen the doorways and there's a whole lot of stuff goes on.
Isn't that a great idea?
So I think it's a great idea and it just can bolt on. It's largely fundable, so the Ministry of Health or ACC or whoever the funding providers will fund them. So if you've got somebody who's in that condition, then you just talk to your occupational therapist or physio, whoever the healthcare professional is that's helping them. And you say, hey, I heard about this. Or go to our website, obviously, www.dme.co.nz.
We've got some video, haven't we?
And you've got some video, so have a look at this.
Why don't we look at that right now? That's brilliant. That's wonderful, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? So, it just helps assist you in every day, and it's just another way. It's a little bit more high-end than some of the stuff that we talked about. But just to show you, there's like everything from a shoehorn to something that's really powered to be able to help you just keep going.
And you can get funding for that through.
You can get funding through that. So, they're atypically, could be upwards of $10,000 plus by the time you look at it. So, obviously.
But look, if it makes your life easier.
Makes your life easier, keeps you living in your own home, which I keep coming back to all the time. I can't say how important that is to an older person to stay at home.
Now, just before you go, Andy, remember when we were growing up, disabilities and that they didn't get a fair shake, did they? They brought the new laws in that said, so it has been a massive change in helping people with disabilities.
We used to hide disabilities.
Yeah.
We had places like Mangere and, we'd put a person with a disability in a centre and hide them away.
Yeah.
But now they're everywhere, they're just like anybody else.
Yeah.
And the greatest disability in the world still is osteoarthritis. It's the elderly.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter about all the other things. You and I are rapidly approaching it, you more than me, or sooner than me. But we're going to need help.
Those 10 years that I've got on you, Andy.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Well, I've probably got 10 years of hair left, maybe. Little it is. But yeah.
I'm going to live to see you go completely bald, Andy.
Yeah. There's a few who say that won't be far away.
Andy, now, if anybody wants to get hold of you, they can talk to you personally.
Yeah, they can.
Give us a good number to get. What about your cell phone number?
021
021
940
940
616.
616. And of course, you go to dme.co.nz. Everything else is there.
Everything's there.
But if somebody's got a specific problem, they say, I like that young man, Andy O'Sullivan. I like him. I'll give him a call and talk to him personally.
Not a problem.
That'll be great.
All right.
Andy, we're going to see you very soon with
take care
another
of yourself.
wonderful item from DME.
All right.
Thanks.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
He's a singer, and he's a man that can shake, rattle, and roll. And he takes us down memory lane week after week with Where Are They Now? And the song of the week. To finish the show, it's our pop encyclopedia, Shane.
Shane!
How are you?
Thank you, Shane, for being a wonderful
good
host.
to see you here.
At
Whoa.
the opening of the club on Saturday night.
What
You
a
were
good
wonderful.
time, yes.
Shane, it was like a rugby scrum. You were surrounded by young, nubile women.
Yeah, I know.
How did you get out of it?
Yeah, well, I thought it was John Travolta for a little while, with the white suit and all that. No, it was great, and you got it started a real good thing there. The Beat Goes On Dance Club.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm going to have to go home now every week and learn a few extra moves. So I'm flash when I get in there, I was shown up on the dance floor.
And of course, it's every Friday and Saturday nights for us baby boomers or 40 plus. So I'd love to see you all there. But you had a great weekend too.
I did, on Waiheke Island, of course, and we had a marvellous time. And we raised $63,000. We raised for the Waiheke Hospice, which is what my favourite charity. I always work for the hospice.
$63,000.
Because you never know when I'll be there. But yeah, great night.
Wow.
Good on you, Waiheke. They're always doing great things over there for their community.
Now, Shane, we must move on, and we must also realise that everything we've talked about up until now has paled into insignificance compared to
Song of the Week. Oh, we're getting better at that. It's so strident. Yes, and it's a beauty. It really is a beauty. I'm going back. I need a bit of good old 60s rock and roll. Some Mersey beat or Tottenham sound, I thought. And we thought, well, the Dave Clark 5. Wow. The Dave Clark 5, Glad All Over. I'm telling you the name of the song already. Now
I can feel it coming.
Yeah. Now they should actually call it the Dave Clark 2 because it's a very sad story, the Dave Clark 5. I mean, huge. They were the biggest mega stars, as big as the Beatles in America and everywhere else around the world.
And they're down to Dave Clark.
They're down to the Dave Clark 2. Oh. And it's a sad story, but there's some nice little highlights. But
they were never as well known as the Beatles, of course, were they?
Well, what happened was Dave Clark, he owned everything. He owned all their product, their EMI records, all that stuff. He owned all the tapes. He was a very smart businessman. And he also owned all the videos. He bought all the Ready, Steady, Go TV shows from Britain and everything. So he's got a lot of video, but I think he was waiting for the big payday. And he waited so long, holding on to it, that it had passed him by.
Yeah.
And of course the Beatles and everybody else are on the YouTubes and on everywhere else. He left it much too late to be seriously considered as one of the great acts of the 60s. Which they actually were. In 64, and in America they were the hugest band.
I can always remember people telling me, Dave Clark 5, they're going to be bigger than the Beatles.
Yeah, well, they were at one
They're not-
stage.
Well, they weren't, but I nearly believed them.
Well, you did, but they toured America before the Beatles.
Did
They were
they?
the first British act to go over there. But the Beatles broke the market with their first singles. But the Dave Clark 5 were very quick to shoom straight over to America and get on tour. They were the first first British band of that era, the Mersey beat and the Tottenham sound, they called it. It was London's answer to Liverpool. So anyway, Mike Smith, he was the voice of the band, you might say. He was the vocalist and the keyboard player, and he wrote most of the songs along with Dave Clark. Don't know whether that was a legal little wrangle or what, you know. You write it and I'll just put my name to it and I give you X amount of dollars, you know. But yeah, and a very sad story about him, because when the Dave Clark 5 finally finished that big, you know, huge career for about 7-8 years, 1971 they broke up. Now in 1971, Mike Smith, everyone went their separate ways obviously, and I'll get to tell you about it. But Mike Smith, he became a jingle writer, and he wrote jingles for the biggest, you know, like Coke and McDonald's and everybody in Britain. All the jingles on the radio, everything were written by Mike Smith. And he made a lucrative career out of it, and it was a great career move for him. It wasn't until he moved to Spain around about in the 90s, he decided to move to Spain, and he married an old girlfriend, a date that he'd been going out with 35 years prior to his first marriage. And 3 months later, he's living in Spain now, and he's got quite a nice tidy villa there he's living in with his wife, his new wife, and he's locked himself out of the gates. He's forgotten his keys and he can't get in, so he's thinking, oh, how am I going to get into the villa? Good idea, I'll climb up over the gates. But he gets to the top of the gates, his trouser catches on, you know, the spikes on the top of the gate, and he goes to jump down. Well, his trousers didn't let him go down. He went down head first and landed on his head, wham, like solid. Cracked his spine in 3 places. Lost all the movement in his body from the waist, ended up neck down. He couldn't move anything from the neck down. Arms are paralyzed, he's paralyzed. Is it called tetraplegic? I think that's what they call he became. And he was taken to hospital, ended up in England for 4 years in a hospital there. Anyway, he's released when he's on his 64th birthday, December the 6th, 2007. Now, he gets out, he's only out for 3 months, and he passes away. It's all over. February, he passed away, the last day of February actually. He passed away in 2008, so that was his tragic story.
Now it's the Dave Clark 4.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the numbers are diminishing rapidly because what happens is you know that Dennis Payton, he was the sax player. Good-looking guy, and after the group broke up, he didn't have a lot to do because he played in a lot of amateur bands and things like that. But his career was basically over. He had a little bit of money, and he went and played sax in some amateur bands, but he became a real estate agent. And he did very well at that, and that was basically his thing. But he found out, it was 2006, he had cancer. And, you know, sad, and he was only 63 when he died.
Now it's
from the
Dave
cancer.
Clark 3.
So we're down to Dave Clark 3. The count goes down. And of course, what happens then? Well, the next guy is Rick Huxley. He just died recently in 2013. And very sad because he did very well, but he became a property developer.
What was he in the band, Rick?
He was the bass player.
Oh, okay.
And he was with them right through, you know, to the end. And he joined the band in 1958. He was the oldest in the band. He was 73 when he died. What happened to him was he was a very heavy smoker for year upon year. But he didn't get cancer, he got emphysema. And he suffered with that a lot. Now his wife tragically died the year before him. And I think that encouraged him to want to go, you know. And he was very ill all of a sudden, but he just got a clean bill of health. And they said, "You're healthy, mate. You're really good." And then this big burst of emphysema arrives and he's over. And he dies. So he died in 2013.
Now it's the Dave Clark 2.
Yeah, so the two guys that are
And
left,
how are they faring?
they're not doing too bad now. It's funny, but Lenny Davison, the guitar player, he went back and he relearnt the guitar because he reckoned he'd learnt it the wrong way round at the first time, and he became a music teacher. And as a bit of a business on the side that he had a business that fixed church organs. And they serviced them, and they'd go around to all the churches. If your organ was broken down, he'd fix it. Ring Lenny. Lenny. So there's Lenny. Now, the only other one left is the huge ego of the band.
The ego.
The ego.
The
and that
ego
was
has landed.
dear old Dave Clark.
Yeah.
And he's still going strong. Swears blind that he hasn't had plastic surgery. And he's got one of them.
Yeah.
He can't even move his lips. And he's got Botox or whatever it is. His forehead's out here somewhere.
Oh.
He's a bizarre looking character. He's become that anyway. But he became very good friends with Freddie Mercury. And when Freddie Mercury passed away, he was the guy that was sitting at his bedside looking after him while he died. And he was the one that informed the parents that Freddie had passed away.
Wow.
But he became very good. Well, I don't know, because Dave Clark's never come out to say that he's gay.
Oh, okay.
And that's part of it. He's never admitted it, and he's never come out. So it's sort of leaves you hanging, really. He's been seen out with ladies and things, but it was quite well known around London anyway, the social circles, that definitely Dave Clark is gay. But anyway, he never admitted to it, so we'll stick with that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get done
We'll
for...
stick with that.
I won't be in trouble.
Shane, what a fascinating story.
It's a funny... Anyway,
Yeah.
look, he's the billionaire. He lives in a £12 million house.
Wow.
It's a row of terrace houses. Remember the Beatles Help movie? They walked in one door,
Yeah.
and you could see straight down the down the house. There was
So
no
he bought a
walls
row of
inside.
terraced houses.
He removed all the walls, and he's got a row of terrace houses, and he's turned the whole thing into one big house.
Wow.
It's got so many thousand, not acres, but
Square feet.
square feet, whatever, square meters of property there, and it's all his. He's relined the interior, and it's got this incredible place. And of course, he was the smart one. He was the businessman. He paid the wages. He looked after the books, and he looked after the tapes, as I was telling you earlier.
Right.
He saw. He was thinking before anyone else. You know, Dave Clark 5 were the first band to have their own private jet. You know, in all those Helicon days in the 70s, when everyone started getting jets, and they were all jet setting around and getting stoned on the aeroplane and doing a gig here and a gig there.
Well, Dave did it.
Dave did it first. The DC-5, they called it. It was a DC-10.
Great.
And they called it the DC-5.
So, Shane, you'll be shopping this weekend for jets?
Jets? I
Your own
wish.
private
I
jet?
wish. No, I wouldn't want one. I
To
don't.
fly into The Beat Goes On.
Exactly. To pop in and visit the club.
Okay. Well, we'll build a heliport on top of the club for you,
That'd
Shane.
be more like it.
Yeah.
I'd like the helicopter. I wouldn't mind a bit of that, yeah.
So I can surmise, Shane, that tonight the song of the week has got to be...
From 1964, the first big one for the Dave Clark 5 when they were 5, Glad All Over.
You say that you love me, all of the time, You say that you need me, you'll always be mine, I'm feeling glad all over, yes I'm glad all over, baby I'm glad all over, so glad you're mine. I'll make you happy, you'll never be blue, you'll have no sorrow, 'cause I'll always be true, and I'm feeling glad all over, yes I'm glad all over, baby I'm glad all over, so glad you're mine. Other girls may try to take me away, but you know it's by your side I will stay, I'll stay. Our love will last now, till the end of time, because it's love now, it's only yours and mine, and I'm feeling glad all over, yes I'm glad all over, baby I'm glad all over, so glad you're mine.
Shane, it's brilliant to see them again, isn't it?
It
Good to see the
brings back
Dave
that
Clark
excitement.
5.
And in those days, the audience screamed, and in that video, they're all going. They're like zombies. Unbelievable. But the band was rocking. Yeah, Glad All Over. Great
Good
song.
one.
And Mike Smith, of course, wrote that. Dave Clark had said to him, "We need to do our own song," because their first hit was "Do You Love Me," and it didn't do that well because Brian Poole and the Tremolos got the success with it. So he turned around and he said, you better write one, we have to start writing our own stuff. He went home and he looked through his record collection, he saw Carl Perkins, and they had a song called Glad All Over, and he said, perfect title, I'll write a song called Glad All Over. And that's how he wrote it.
Wow.
But now, did you know?
I had no idea.
Did you know?
No idea.
Now, Dave Clark, he didn't get an MBE, as you know, and he didn't get a knighthood, and he's a very wealthy man, and he's done a lot for the country, paid a lot of taxes. What happened for him, Harold Wilson was in that time, 1964, 65, Harold Wilson was the Labour government in England, and he'd already awarded the Beatles an MBE. Well, he's offered Dave Clark one. And what happened was Dave Clark was offered to come there and show his support for the Labour Party at Downing Street and have a few canopies and a few champagnes. He went in a white suit. He's standing there in the white suit and someone goes, whoops, sorry, and knocks a glass of champagne over his crutch. And of course it looks like he's wet himself, you know, he's a bit wet there, and he's a white suit, it's nothing worse. And it's just before they stand in line to meet Harold. And Harold Wilson's walking along the line, he gets to him, and instead of looking Dave Clark in the eye, he goes, look straight at his crutch, and went like in a questioning look, and said nothing. And Dave Clark thought, he was so embarrassed about it, he said, I'm sorry, Harold, he said, I was so excited about meeting you, I wet myself. Which I think is a great line. Anyway, Harold wasn't impressed because he didn't say a word. He just looked him in the eye and went and walked off down the line and ignored him. But 10 days later, he got in touch and he said, come in and see me, I want a photo opportunity. He's obviously gone away, seen Dave Clark's a big star. Yeah. Wants his photo done with Dave Clark, and he said, and I'll see to it that you're on the honours list next year if you do. Well, Dave Clark was a bit outraged about it. He thought there was selling out if he went in there for that. So he declined the offer and didn't get an MBE, and he didn't get anything else. And obviously he doesn't go to the right dinner parties because he hasn't been knighted or anything. So
what a fool, what an idiot.
Yeah, so did you know? Yeah.
Shane, it's a wonder they didn't award him a sausage.
Oh, no. You bring that sausage up every week.
Because it's a sterling job on sausage.
Okay.
Shane, I can only say, you've done it again.